Okay, guys, what's up? We just got some more news in the form of a video plus an article on Polygon. Uh, I'm just gonna try to go through the video and talk about it. This way, I don't forget anything. So I don't know how this is gonna work or if it's not gonna come across very well. But here we go. Let's just give it a try. Right off the bat, you get the spotter audio, which does sound a lot more diverse. There's a lot more stuff there that we haven't heard before. It does sound good. Also, the cars seem to, I mean, it's hard to pick it up because they have music playing and the way they edit these videos, they're just chopped up into these really quick uh, portions. So it's hard to pick things up, right? You almost have to watch these videos more than once, sometimes in slow mo, which you kind of miss the audio, stuff like that. But so far, right off the bat, the sound does sound better. The spotter sounds better. It sounds like they really put a lot more diversity in the things that the spotter says. So that's good. Let's move on from there.
So this year in Nascar,
You got to hear more spotter stuff there, and the cars sound better. So let's hear what Sean Wilson has to say.
three, we spent a lot of time working on the AI. We made the top difficulty levels even more difficult. These AI cars will challenge you. If you give them an inch, they'll take it from you. The pitting experience should be much more realistic this year. So the handling of the cars is more refined. We are aware that if we make every AI car wreck when you tap them, then it would just be a wreck fest, and that wouldn't be fun. But we were able to tighten up like your car's handling model as well, so you're not going to be quite as loosey goosey as you might have been when you touched that car as you were in years past.
Okay, so right off the bat, this is what I wanted to hear about the AI. Uh, he confirmed that yes, it's going to be a lot more challenging. So right off the bat, to me, it's that's got to be at the top of my list of concerns from last year. So they're telling us this game's going to be harder, more challenging. Uh, this is what gives you a sense of accomplishment when you race and you get a top five or a win. You know, it shouldn't be easy. The harder you have to work for it, the bigger the sense of accomplishment is. It's not fun dominating and winning all the time. Uh, and I think most of you guys can agree with that. Plus, the good news is you can always dial it down. So if you want the game to be easy, you can do that. But finally, we have a more challenging AI, according and this is something they've repeatedly brought up. So I'm confident. You know, they kind of know that they did that. They were able to accomplish that. That's the sense I get. And also the pit strategy. So he says there's going to be a smarter pitting logic, which is another top of my list type of deals. These That's a game breaking issue from last year, and that remains to be seen how well it works. I'm curious to see, but they worked on it and they've repeated that as well. So that's what I want to know. That's what I want to hear, and things that I think are gonna have the biggest impact on this game is the AI. So I'm really pleased to hear that. So let's move on from there. Oh, one more thing. He did mention that when you make contact with other cars, they tightened up the handling. That's a question mark for me because I'm not really sure what that means. If all they did was really tighten up your car so it doesn't spin out as easy, that might have adverse effects on the racing. I'm not sure what this means, but maybe it's just a collision type thing where it momentarily keeps your car from getting completely out of control. That's a question mark. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm not sure. It's one of those things you have to, till you actually play the game, you won't really know what exactly what he's talking about. So that's a question mark. That's not either good or bad. I'm not really sure. Maybe you guys have a better sense of what he's talking about. So let's move on from there.
We've been able to get more out of our graphics engine to make it more realistic than it ever has.
He brought up the graphics engine, which is one of the things a lot of people always bring up and stuff like that. As I've said, I do notice an improvement, and it's for me, it's realistic, right? I wasn't expecting a huge night and day graphical improvement because I know better. I understand that these game engines, they're not magic. You know, you don't just it doesn't just magically make everything look better. You have to actually get in there and do a lot of work. And from what I see, they've done a significant amount of work, and the game does look better. I mean, it's not what a lot of people were expecting, but it's definitely the type of thing I was expecting. So they are meeting my expectations on that front, and I don't think the game looks bad at all. You know, I don't get why a lot of people are so down on the graphics. Um, that's just me. But the game does look improved. So I don't think that's something anyone can deny. Now, it's just it remains to be seen what people feel as far as what their expectations are. I don't think a lot of people have realistic expectations, but so there it is. But he brought up the graphics engine, and the game in many areas has a lot more detail. That's kind of more of what I noticed. There's a lot more detail in the game. Whereas the game last year did feel really bare bones, not a lot of life to it. It just didn't feel fleshed out graphically. There's a lot more detail now, so that's a noticeable improvement.
We realized that the garage feature that we have in the game, which is back, but there are a lot of knobs and whistles and gadgets, just a lot to take in. So what we did is we created 9 new presetups for our players. I love.
Okay, real quick, what I just saw, and you guys are gonna see the video and check it out for yourself. He's talking about the pre-race setups and stuff, where people like myself who are not experts at uh, working on these cars and getting the right setup, you have a lot of more options, like to really get the car closer to what you're comfortable with, or maybe get a little more speed out of the car. I'm pleasantly surprised. I wasn't expecting 9 pre-race setups. uh, I was thinking more like 4 or 5. This is and I'm assuming that each track has different setups, like with last year's game, your default setups, they changed from track to track. So it does seem like they put in a lot of work there to give us more options. Options are always a good thing, and I kind of really like the way it's laid out. The presentation is something I'm going to talk about as we go along, but it, the overall look of these menus and stuff like that, all of these little features that pop up on the screen, I have to say it's another pleasant surprise. I like the way it's laid out. When you see the 9 setups, and it goes from tight to loose, and it's really well done. I like it. It's clean. So that's another nice thing that they've worked on. Let's move on from that.
That we have those options there for the players that really want to get into the nuts and bolts of how these cars handles. But if you
Another thing I just noticed, right? We're still looking at the slider for the 9 different setups, but in the background, it seems like you're at practice. And another thing I noticed, and I'm pleasantly surprised again. You're sitting in your car, it's in cockpit mode, and it's in practice, and you're looking at your recommended setups that you can choose from. But while you're sitting there, there are people in your team or your crew standing outside the car, and they're talking to each other and just like right next to the car. This is the type of thing that has really pissed me off with the earlier games, where you're just sitting there and there's nothing going on, and you feel like you're by yourself at the track. There's no life, but they've addressed that. So I'm really pleasantly surprised there as well. And they're really is this is what I mean by detail. They're adding stuff. And I love that. I know other people don't really care about this stuff. I think it's one of the things that have really hurt NASCAR games in recent years, the lack of uh, detail and presentation. And I love that. You're sitting there. Another thing, as you're sitting there, um, the names of other drivers are scrolling across the top. So I guess if it's in practice, it's listing drivers according to practice times or speeds, or is this during qualifying? And I hope you can. This happens during qualifying as well, where you have the leaders scrolling across the top. Again, this is all part of presentation and the type of thing these games have been missing, and they really have paid attention and they're trying. So let's move on from that.
Don't. Those pre-built setups are so much fun. Always consider when you're going to a racetrack, especially for the first time, is build your race car with a very stable setup. So you can get out there and you can get some laps underneath your belt, and then you can start to tune on your race car. NASCAR Heat 3 does have the look around cam and look back camera. Clear up. One of the biggest things to being a good NASCAR driver is understanding when to brake coming into.
All right, they showed you a quick view of the 360 cam. This is something a lot of people have wanted. It's not going to affect me because, like I said, I'm strictly a cockpit mode guy. I try to get the most realistic experience there is. It's not really realistic to be able to look around your car when you're driving, but I don't have a problem with it. A lot of people wanted it, and I'm really glad you got it. And they showed it off. It works, and it works exactly as intended, as the way people wanted it. And now they're going to talk about the race line, which is something that's just an option, but it helps people who are new to these racing games, also who are not familiar with certain tracks. So I think its options are great. It's never a bad thing. So my wife better answer that. Okay. So now I'm looking at the screen, and it's in practice. It says go bowling at the Glen. Okay, so they're at Watkins Glen. You're in the pits once again. You got your people in your crew standing right outside the car, and it says today's lineup, and the names are scrolling across the top: Kyle Larson, McMurray, Chris Buescher, Stenhouse. You got the nationwide logo at the top right. So it's I love that. This is all part of presentation. It looks good. So let's move on from that.
Practice mode has been enhanced by the addition of a racing line. What it is just tells you the optimal path to take at each track, and then it also updates real time based on how fast you're going. If you're tight, sometimes you got to use the throttle to make a turn, or whatever situation you're in. You can definitely make it work. It really does help you understand tracks that maybe you've had difficulties with, or even the tracks that are new this year. Stories mode basically is before each race.
Okay, before we get to another thing that I want to that has to do with presentation, they just showed a quick clip of the dirt on the road course. It looks like fun. You see dirt kicking up, and it looks fun. And take it for what it is. It's a fantasy league. Um, I think it's a good introduction to the game. It wasn't like something that I thought was necessary to add another series, but like I said, it's now that it's there. I'll try to appreciate it for what it is, and I would have been more concerned had they not been able to work on all these other things, which I am surprised. I thought that they just wouldn't be able to do all this stuff because of all the time and effort put into the Dirt series. But I keep being surprised. These guys have seriously been able to do a lot of work to the rest of the game in spite of so much focus on the Dirt series. So I can't complain. I got to be honest. This is good stuff. So
Starts something that might happen in real life will happen to other drivers in the game. You might see something like a driver has failed inspection and got sent to the back of the pack. Or you might just see something like, well, this guy's the one who's really hot this weekend and he qualified pole.
okay. Uh, Again, I love how they're showing you the warm up lap just before you start the race, and they're going through the field and they're showing a couple of cars, and it's kind of like what they did in 2004 Thunder, but here is where they kind of fall short. I love that they're doing it, positive step in the right direction, but I don't like reading text, right? If I'm watching this and I'm looking at, I would love for it to be audio commentary like we had in 2004. And that is definitely something I'm going to push for and bring up in the future for the next game. I do want them to go from, get away from text where you're reading people talking to you on text and just actually have real audio commentary. And it would be really cool if they did this type of presentation, but with, let's say Jeff Burton or Dale Jr. or even Daryl Waltrip or whoever, somebody talking and talking about this stuff rather than you reading text. I'm not making a big deal out of it, uh, but I do think that uh, that's where it should go. That's going to really elevate the presentation even further. So that's what I want: pre-race, post-race, audio commentary, and going through the lineup, all that stuff. In 2004, we used to get even the end of the national anthem, jets flying overhead. You would see the gentlemen start your engines in the pits, and then they would go through the lineup during the warm-up lap, and you'd hear audio commentary. That is still the where I want these guys to go. But it looks like they're pushing in that direction, so I can't be mad at that. And this is it's a good thing. So I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to play the game and actually experience that in game. So I like what I see. So let's move on from that. They're gonna go and talk about the rival system.
Back rivalries that we introduced in NASCAR Heat 2. We refined it a great deal, and we put more emphasis on the presentation of it. If you're nice enough to somebody, they will become your friend, and of course, that's how they'll treat you when you're out on the track. If you tick somebody off, they might give you a little nudge when you're out there as well. After you come out of a race, you'll see social messages, social media messages from these drivers saying, hey, it was a great race, or you really ticked me off out there. And you have the opportunity to either compliment them or insult them. It gives you more control of who are your friends and who are your enemies out on the track.
Again, another upgrade, right, to last year's rival system, which was pretty bare bones and simple. And they took it and they went deeper with it. If you see the way it's laid out, it does seem just like it's really there's a lot more detail to it, um, and you actually can respond to them in a positive way or an insult. Um, why you would want to insult them and just turn them into bigger rivals, I don't know, unless you're looking to make rivals. But it's great that it's an option. I don't know how that's going to work. Like when you make a response, does it actually show you how you respond? I know you're not going to get a bunch of options and choices like in the NBA 2K games. At least from a couple years ago, you would actually have interviews, and you could actually pick from like four different answers and how to answer, and that would affect the way that the career mode would go along. So obviously that's not going to be here, but at least you can respond. And if somebody's really making your life miserable as a rival, you can try to calm them down by kissing their ass, I guess. So it's great. I love options. It's nothing that you have to be involved with if you don't want to, but it's awesome that it's there. And they actually even taking a rival system, which they could have left it as is and just improve how quickly or how dynamic the rival system worked. They could have tuned that up without actually doing all of this extra stuff. But I'm again, this is good surprises. So let's move on from that.
We're going to have a bunch of downloadable content again. After the game is launched, these teams continue to run paint schemes, and we offer it as DLC packs. We
Okay.
also have
The rest of the trailers talking about DLC packs and buying season pass and stuff like that. I'm not interested in that. I don't care. Uh, those of you, I'm sure you're gonna go see this trailer, which I recommend, and you'll see why I'm excited about this game. I like everything I see so far. Everything is just keeps moving in the right direction. I'm excited the most about the two things that really stood out for me was overall the presentation is improved. They are pushing in the right direction. My only complaint is, like I said, most almost all of it is based on text, right? So reading text kind of takes you out of that immersion just a little bit. So if they eventually push for audio commentary, that's to me is the best possible outcome. And you, as you're watching what's going on and they're going through the field, sort of let it be like a television type of presentation, like you're watching a race on TV. That's what I want. That's where what we used to have in 2004. But I'm thrilled to see where they're going with this. And it does look good, even with reading text and stuff. It is so much better than not having anything, which is what we've been dealing with for the past bunch of years. uh, Presentation probably one of the biggest things that have been missing from these games. They just haven't paid any attention to it until now. These guys are listening, they're trying, and it looks good. Um, the little bit of audio that you pick up is also improved. The spotter sounds much better. There's just a lot more diversity to the how many different things he's saying. Even though they jumbled it up in there and they really chopped it up, the way they edit these trailers, they got to condense it so that you get a piece of everything and you kind of know what's there, but they can't really dwell on any one thing. So it's hard to pick up details without really looking for it. But I'm surprised, and I'm pleasantly surprised that most of this stuff, the game is really shaping up to look really good. Uh, I'm gonna probably this coming week do a prediction video. I think I've seen enough to do that. The only thing they haven't really discussed in detail is the online multiplayer. So I'm assuming they're gonna do that next week because this game is only a couple weeks away. So, I should probably by next week do a prediction video. Um, I'm really excited about this whole game, and this video just every time they release information, I just feel better because the AI is the other thing. I'm really concerned about that. I do think that the AI is what's going to make or break this career mode. The AI and the owner's mode, how deep does it go? Uh, and as long as it's not something where once you max out all your equipment and everything that it just stays at that level, that would ruin the owner's the ownership in the career mode. So I want it to be where you have to continue to invest and work and pay attention to what's going on with your team and all that stuff. Whereas we saw in the first game, I remember with that how you worked on your cars and every department, that once you maxed everything out, you never paid attention to it again. It was like you just stayed at a top level. That's not realistic. And in 2004, that was a really deep ownership type of system where you had to continue to and even fix cars that you damaged. Equipment would wear down and break down. So I'm really hoping that's what this is going to be like. But I'm loving everything I see. I don't know how anyone can honestly look at this game and be down on it. It just looks like it's shaping up to be something really good. And when I do the prediction video, I think I'm gonna have a really good gauge on what we're getting. So I hope you guys look forward to that. Also, let me know if this worked for you. Uh, you guys know I'm very low tech. Looking at a video and watching it and talking about it, I know it's not what you guys want or are used to. All these other YouTubers, they do an amazing job, editing and doing all kinds of stuff. But keep in mind that I don't do this for a living. I don't make money from this. I don't, this isn't something I'm trying to build and become some big YouTuber. I do this really out of as a passion for video games and trying to get better games. That's my real only reason for doing most of these videos. Or once in a while, there'll be something I just feel like talking about. It's more of a passion or hobby. It's not really a business thing for me. I make no money from this. I don't monetize or anything. So I'm sorry if it's low tech and low budget and all that stuff, but it is what it is. So let me know what you think. Did it work for you? Were you able to understand what I'm talking about? And I look forward to your comments. So you guys have a good one, and hopefully next week there'll be more news, and I'll talk about whatever that is when it comes out, and maybe I'll be able to do a prediction video. So let me know what you guys think. I look forward to your comments.